The James Show Podcast.
We're starting immediately into Dallas expanding the smoking ban into the vaping ban. I am against this, and I'm going to go ahead and give you the end at the beginning here. I don't believe in secondhand smoke. Like, I know it exists, and I realize it can make you close think and whatnot. But we're going to have a serious chat about the science around it, because it sounds like this has been overplayed in order for people who wanted to have power over you to have more power over you. And just like so many of the other fake health scares of your life, you need to circle back and reevaluate this. But we start with the report from WFAA on why I'm bringing this up to begin with.
Here is a heads up. Across Dallas, the city's ban on vaping goes into effect Wednesday. The Dallas City Council passed that ordinance last year. This makes the use of e-cigarettes off limits in public places like bars, workplaces, parks, and other no-smoking areas. If you break the rules, you could be fined up to $500.
All right, I'm not a smoker, and I used to hate when you would go to bars and the whole place was just smoked out. You would go home stinking. You would stink up your car. The next day you would smell it when you got back in your car. And so part of me is glad that was banned, but it's just for my own personal convenience. Now, the libertarian a-hole James thinks that was a poor excuse to take away property rights from business owners. There were already bars that were naturally going smoke-free, and if you would have just sat back and let the market take over, we would still have pretty much the same situation we have now, where most bars are smoke-free, most restaurants are smoke-free, without having to cede the ideological battleground that whoever owns the property gets to make the rules. But let me tell you why I am so skeptical and against this, even on a scientific level, even on a, well, look at the studies that show it's dangerous. Really? I'm not even sure secondhand smoking is dangerous. Now, if you go do searches for it, you will be flooded with people saying, well, 600,000 people die every year from secondhand smoke. 7 million people die from smoking. And okay, listen, there were a bunch of studies that were done about 25, 30 years ago that were made by people who wanted to stop smoking. They got the results that they paid for. And now that we go back, and since about really 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, there are study after study after study that can't go back and replicate the results that came from the original propagandist. Now, scientists who want to get on TV or who want to be on the BBC or who want to be on Good Morning America or the Today Show, they'll go out and they'll tell you the scariest things. Oh, secondhand smoking's even worse than smoking your damn self. But when you go back and you look through the scientific literature, it's happened over and over. There was a 2009 meta-analysis conducted by the Institute of Medicine, not Fox News, not the James Parker Show, but the Institute of Medicine concluded that the impact on smoking bans on short-term heart attacks was real and substantial. Oh, that seems to contradict what you're saying. But when they go back, they can't replicate those results. Over and over and over, they keep trying to do it. And when they made that, air quotes, meta-analysis, it turns out that the meta-analysis left out studies that disagreed with the findings. One of the biggest studies that they left out was a 2008 study covering the entire country of New Zealand. They had already locked down the smoking ban on all their islands way before we did, and it's a much bigger population than like the analysis of a small American town. They're like, oh, well, Pueblo, Colorado had a 22% reduction in heart attacks after they did a smoking ban. You know, they find these little examples of these tiny populations, and you find out how small the numbers are. And so you go to a bigger population. That study found that no significant effect on heart attacks or what they call unstable angina in the year following the implementation of a smoking ban. In fact, hospitalizations for heart attacks had actually increased when you look at all of New Zealand. So then they tried to replicate the results in a study from the Rand Corporation in 2010. The conclusion of that study, here's a quote. We find no evidence that legislated U.S. smoking bans were associated with short-term reductions in hospital admissions for acute myocardial infarction, heart attack, or other diseases in the elderly, children, or working-age adults. So they went back, circled back, and they tried to do it again. But let's use a bigger sample size. In 2012, another study, including 6 American states that had instituted smoking bans, same conclusion. They tried to do it again in 2014. Now, this one's notable because some of the co-authors in the 2014 study, and I have links to all this if you want to know, I'll email it to you. It's in the notes, were some of the same researchers who were in that 2009 study that I started with. They went back and changed their mind. When they went to Pueblo, Colorado and Greeley, They were the first to do the smoking ban. So when Colorado did a statewide ban, you had the opportunity to see if the earlier results could be duplicated across the larger population. Didn't happen. So they tried to do it again in August 2016. I can link you to this one as well. This time, 28 states. Lead author Vivian Ho. That's her real name. Don't at me. This one comes from Rice University. Rice University, not the 7-Eleven across the street, not the WBAP newsroom, as austere and august as it is. Rice University, new methodology, same results. So I'm not even convinced on this. It sounds like they are just coming up with an excuse to seize more power. The people in control who are always trying to seize more power. Now, vaping was something that I thought would settle this. It's like, okay, look, these people can get their stupid little nicotine fix and they don't have to stink up the whole place, and they don't have to have like paper burning and the plant fibers that are burning and the tar that's burning and all the extra chemicals in there. There'll be just like a little bit of glycerol, some water, and whatever they're trying to get a fix on. So whether it's THC or nicotine, or sometimes it's just flavor, which I think is weird. It's weird, but I thought this was the great compromise. Science. I thought real science had solved this issue. Now these weirdos can vape and not really bother the rest of us and not have to worry about secondhand smoke and all that goofy stuff. No, they can't leave you alone. They can't leave you alone. 800-288-9227. This is Sandra in Roy City. You're on WBAP.
Good morning or good afternoon.
Hey, Sandra.
I have a comment, and I don't think you're thinking about this when you're thinking about secondhand smoke, but those of us who are asthmatic get really irritated. Our lungs do.
Yeah, I have an answer for that. I know. I expected this, dude. I've been in talk radio for 23 years doing this topic. I already have an answer for that.
What's that?
Okay, so if I have a peanut allergy, is there something wrong with the peanut, or is there something wrong with me?
There's something wrong with you, but
there you go.
You know, people don't usually, blow peanut breath in your face.
No, understandable, but it's pretty easy to avoid smoke getting blown in your face without having to make it illegal for everybody.
And that is true, and it's not just smoke or vape, it's perfumes and things like that, and some of these women just bathe in this stuff.
Should we outlaw perfume?
So,
yeah.
I think we should outlaw it all. Just come, no
all right. Well, look, I'm glad you brought it up because someone was going to, and let's go ahead and get that out in the first segment. There, you have my answer to that because I hear that every time I do this. But listen, we need to talk about this, scientific consensus that's going around, because are these the same doctors that Biden said was sharp? That said Biden was sharp as a tack? Are these the same doctors that said you got to wear a mask and it'll work? Cochrane study blew that out of the water. Are these the same doctors that said you should get a shot and you won't be contagious, you won't spread it, you won't die, you won't go to the hospital? Are these the same doctors that told you it's too dangerous to go to church, or it's too dangerous to go to your mother's own funeral, but it was okay for George Floyd rioters to go loot a Foot Locker and giant mobs? And even worse, I'll play you this next. Are these the same doctors who gave you the food pyramid? And it's like, James, you're challenging the science on vaping? I'm challenging the science on vaping, secondhand vaping especially, because I'm not even convinced secondhand smoking lives up to the hype that led everyone so scared that they gave up the rights to control the rules of their property however they see fit. I'm always skeptical if that's the result. And I'm always skeptical if it's being pushed by the people who are going to have the levers of power. So you can go find plenty of doctors that tell you smoking's bad. You can go find plenty of doctors that tell you secondhand smoking's bad. And I'm not going to argue on smoking itself, because if you want to smoke yourself, then it's really hard for anyone to argue against you putting something unhealthy in your body. But the secondhand smoking is where it sort of trips everybody. Everybody in some ways is a civil libertarian. It's just, where do you draw the line? And so you draw the line if it gives somebody cancer against their will and it's in public where they can't avoid it. That is the sort of hyperbolic reporting that led people to say, okay, well, that's a bit too far. Because without that, then what is the negative effect of secondhand smoke? It makes you stink. True. That is imposing a cost on a non-compliant third party. They did not agree to this. Involuntary third party, I should say. But if smell is enough to restrict somebody's freedom, does that mean I can't make barbecue anymore? Because you might smell like barbecue? Does that mean I can't have a campfire in my backyard? I mean, for people in the city, that sounds crazy. Oh, you can't burn anything in the backyard. I'm from the country where we burn stuff. Does that mean I can't do anything that makes anybody stink? What if I have an air freshener that sticks to your clothes a little bit. So no, we don't buy that. But I am just amazed at how many people here that, oh, well, science says it's wrong, so I just believe it. You don't question it? Because what if the doctors that are telling you secondhand smoking gives you cancer is even worse than firsthand smoking? Is that the same doctors that told you to get a shot? Is that the same doctors who gave you the food pyramid? Same doctors that told you Biden's sharp as attack? And people are coming back to that food pyramid thing. What do you mean the food pyramid? All right, we're going to go back in time. Saturday morning cartoons. When I was a kid, the stupidest PSAs would come on. And if you don't believe me, go back and watch some of them now. You won't believe how terrible the advice was. And the point isn't to make fun of the advice when I was watching cartoons in 1986. It's that these same people are lying to you now. The science is as settled and as reliable now as what you were seeing in the PSAs. Now, here's one, Time for Timer. Do y'all remember? Garrett, you're too young for... You don't remember Time for Timer. There's no way you know this dude, right? Time for Timer? Used to come on during Saturday morning cartoons. You're too young for Saturday morning cartoons. All right, here it is. See if you can remember Hanker for a Hunk of Cheese.
Bang, bang, bang. Oh, howdy, partner. Time for Timer. Do you ever get that hungry feeling after school? Boy, I do. I'm so hungry, I could eat a wagon wheel. When I'm slow on the draw and I need something to chaw, I hanker for a hunk of cheese. When my 10-gallon hat's a feeling 5 gallons flat, I got something planned, which is little cheese sandwiches. Come on. Here's a great little snack to tide you over till dinner. If you want something delicious and nutritious, cheese is a super snack. Look, a wagon wheel. When my get up and go has got up and went, I hanker for a hunk of cheese. When I'm dancing, I hold down and my boots kind of slow down, or anytime I'm weak in the knees. I hanker for a hunk of, a slab or slice and chunk of, a snacker that is a winner, and yet won't spoil my dinner. I hanker for a hunk of cheese. Yahoo!
Oh, my God. Who just had a flashback? You're sitting on the green shag carpet with the bowl of Fruity Pebbles in your lap, some cats walking by. Was that the worst health advice you could give a kid? Hey, if you want a snack, how about a cracker with cheese between it? Okay, so we're going to take lactose, milk fat, and we're going to put it on 2 layers of gluten. I mean, how many people have lactose intolerance now? How many people have to drink alternative milk now? How many people have gluten sensitivities now? I mean, standing up to what we have now going into 2026 almost, how horrible is that advice? Would the scientists then agree with scientists now? And you think, well, geez, I guess that was like the cheese producers coming up with propaganda and masquerading it as a PSA in order to sell more cheese? Yes, now you get it. Now you get it. Robert in Arlington, you're on WBAP.
How are you doing? I'm doing fine. I'm a retired nurse, and I am here to tell you the science is never settled.
Please go on.
Well, basically, think about a major drug like Dimetap off the market. It was safe for years. You gave it to children. Phenylpropanolamine now off the market. You can only get it in a hospital. And going back to the smoking bans things, I'm a former smoker. And basically what these bans are doing is trying to legislate the common courtesy that you owe people around you. I smoked for years, 2 packs of Winston's a day. And I was always careful not to be blowing my smoke around people. And that's you don't need a law to do that. That's just ridiculous.
Well, and this is also something where the word diversity needs to come into effect. Because if we left the laws alone, it's not like everywhere would allow smoking. Some places would, some places wouldn't. There would be some sort of workaround in the middle to where they would let you smoke unless someone complained, and then they would ask you nicely to put it out or leave. And so I would just leave it up to, here's the just amazing part. Without the people in City Hall or Austin or wherever the heck deciding who gets to make the rules for the restaurant, here's my novel concept. The restaurant owner, the building owner, liberty. We'd be free to make their own decisions on our property the way we see fit, and we would have a diverse array. So some people, if you want to smoke during dinner, you would have somewhere you could go. If you don't want to smoke during dinner, you would have somewhere you could go. If you like the independent little third way where sometimes you're smoking, or maybe if it's just cigars, or maybe if it's just, I don't know, weed or crack or whatever. We'll work on the crack restaurants later. I know a lot of people don't eat well on crack, but this started in the 90s and 2000s is when it really ramped up and they started passing the bans. But this goes all the way back to World War I Germany and the idea of passive smoking, secondhand smoking. The Nazis were big into smoking bans, if you must know. Not that everyone who's against me is a Nazi. But look, I want to show you another one. Here's one it was published December 6, 2013 in the Oxford Academic Journal of the National Cancer Institute. So again, I'm not going to Mad Magazine for my science here. I'm not going to SeanHannity.com for my science here. I'm going to the Oxford Academic Journal of the National Cancer Institute. Here's the headline: no clear link between passive smoking and lung cancer. So in the last couple of segments, I was showing you how they go back and they do the studies on how the bans haven't had any effect on anyone's health. Here's another piece of science, a big one too, talking about how the idea of passive smoking is questionable to begin with. And if that falls apart, they have no reason to take away a property owner's right to decide whether or not he allows smoking in his own business. And that's where I have the problem. I don't even like smoking. Dan in Copperas Cove, you're on WBAP.
Hey, how's it going? I got a quick question for you to bring up.
Sure.
I'm been told that I'm a cynic, but I went through a ad class back years ago at college, and at that particular time, they were talking about Coke is the most preferred drink. But my instructor brought up something, and he proved it. What they did was they set up a booth, and they had Coke and Pepsi set out there. They counted all the Cokes that favored, put it in one pile, counted all the Pepsi stuff, put it in another pile. And guess what they did? They sold the ads to both Coke and to Pepsi, and they were used. It all boils down to who makes the money. In this case, you've got your scientists that have, they need to be able to fund their investigations, their whatever you want there. So the bottom line is, I tell all my friends, when you see somebody trying to tell you, this product will cure cancer, look very closely to who's selling it. Wear a mask.
Yeah,
look closely who's selling it.
And this really echoes what we saw. Science was just sort of abused for COVID. This is what we see when science is abused over global warming. Well, these experts say, well, no, what does your own eye see? What are the results see? I don't care about what predictions they're making now. What predictions did they make 20 years ago? Did they come true? And they haven't. We're supposed to have after this. Thank you very much, because you brought up a good point there, Dan, way down in Copperas Cove. When they made all these smoking bans, they were talking about how it was going to save, millions of lives every year, and heart attacks were going to fall. And well, did it happen? Are we done with heart attacks? Heart attacks have gone down, but the trend line is the exact same as it was before the smoking ban started. So you're just continuing whatever trend had them going down in the first place. But if you want to attribute that to the smoking bans, then you're just being dishonest, and you're not being very scientific at all. Steve in Corinth, you're on WBAP.
Oh, we got science out the window. Nobody asked Fauci about the smoking. I was wondering why they haven't brought him into it. So back to your cartoons, the hunk of cheese thing does bring people back. The Flintstones used to advertise Winston cigarettes right on the TV. So we've come a long way there. But secondhand smoke, that's crazy news, because I think it's more about the smell. The smell of the cigarettes, the smell of the vapes. Remember, you used to smoke on trains and elevators, anywhere you wanted to smoke. The judge in a courtroom would be smoking a cigar.
Yeah, the first time I was on an airplane, people smoked on a Southwest Airlines flight.
Yeah, and I agree that should be banned in that situation. That I can understand.
Hang on. I bet you agree with this. Let's add a little caveat to that. Southwest should have the brains to make that policy on their own without being forced by government. I still don't support a ban on smoking on airplanes, because look, if you wanted to have like a smoking specific airline and there was enough of a market for that, go knock yourself out. I don't want to ruin those people's good time, but I still don't support a government ban even on airplanes.
I don't support a government ban on anything or making me take a jab or anything. They're way overreaching on lots of stuff. Right. And
yeah, well,
I hope we get to the bottom of all that. But I think it's more about the smell that people are complaining about, because secondhand smoke is not causing cancer in anyone.
Well, I wish you were. That's the reason why most of us hate it, but that's not the reason it's sold to us. The reason it's sold to us and the reason why it'll survive court challenges is because passive smoking, secondhand smoking, can kill you. It's even more dangerous than firsthand smoking, which is just insane. But it's out there, and I'm just shocked that we don't have more people pushing back on this. It just flew through with no one complaining. Now vaping is illegal. The government has taken another freedom away, and with not even a whimper out of the general public. We're talking about the vape ban in Dallas being expanded now to where, just like the slippery slope argument, just like the nose under the camel's tent or camel's nose under the whatever tent, they just expanded the language of the existing smoking ordinance to seize even more power from the private property owners and business owners of Dallas. And they did that by including vaping. That counts as smoking now because it's just as bad. It can't be. You people who say, oh, well, it's got to be even worse. You sound like the people who said, oh, well, secondhand smoke's even worse than firsthand smoking because it's not even going through a filter. Stop it. You've been proven wrong over and over. You've been proven wrong on the predictions that you make for just about anything. Weren't we all supposed to be driving electric cars by now? That's what you were told in 2007. Wasn't Miami supposed to be underwater by now? That's what you were told in 2009. Wasn't the Arctic supposed to be ice-free by now? So if all these other predictions are wrong, that includes science, whether it's global warming, whether it's the food pyramid, whether it's the 28 things they got wrong during COVID, whether or not it's ivermectin or... Why do you believe them on this one? Why should you believe them on this one? Why should you cede any of your liberty to any more of these lies? And if you go back and you just attempt to go find any documentation or studies or science that goes contra the narrative that secondhand smoking is deadly, you'll find tons of it. You will find plenty, and it's in academic journals, it's in scientific papers, it's coming from universities, Rice University, Oxford. Every time they go back and look at it, they say both. Number one, we can't find that the smoking bans had any positive net effect on the communities on which they were imposed. And number two, we're not even sure if this secondhand smoke is that bad anyway. This is Jim and Rowlett. You're on WBAP. Hey, Jim.
How you doing? Anyway, my father smoked 2 packs of Marlboros every day, and I lived with him till I was in my 20s. And my mother never died of anything related to cancer of the lungs. My brother is 82. I'm 80. So I don't think that affected us at all.
Well, that's anecdotal, to be fair. But, I mean, it doesn't really prove or disprove my point, except for the fact that if you're an extremist, how do you explain how so many people have your story, Jim? Because I hear that every time I do this, too.
Yeah, well, the problem is that they say we're going to prove this, and they build the science around it. Instead of saying we're going to do the... I guess I got cut off.
No, you're here. It clicked for a second.
Sorry. But what they do is they set a premise in which they we're going to prove cancer is smoking causes cancer, and they build the science to prove that. Mm-hmm. Instead of saying that, well, let's do the science and see what we prove.
Right. And so that's why they're always talking in forward. Like the global warming reporting is almost always predictions, and it's never a recounting of what just happened over the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah, I agree. It's just that the scientists are, they're paid by these corporations or whatever to make these decisions. But
Jim, what we should be hearing now from the reporting, like when the people are pushing the vape bans, they should be going back and they should be citing the studies that they were citing in 2004 or so when all the bans were being implemented and voted in, and showing how their predictions were true, but they're not doing that. Just like they don't go back and like 10 times this year, you heard a report from the news how this is an above average hurricane season. They said it back in March. Well, the early predictions for when hurricane season starts in June is that it's going to be higher than normal. And then in June, everyone agrees that it's going to be higher than normal halfway through the hurricane season. Well, it's been a slow start, but we're really about to ramp up here. And now that it's the end of the hurricane season, they're not telling you, boy, we were wrong. Everything we reported to you all year was wrong. We had a below average hurricane season. You've already had the reporting all year that it was above average. You can't turn around people's public opinion on a dime with just one report saying, oh, it was below average. And they're not going to report that with the same gusto anyway. And you have the same thing here. Well, this is going to save millions of lives if we do all these smoking bans. Where's the lives? Where are they saved? Where's the big success story? They don't have it. We actually have a body of information now, and we know that they were wrong. This is Kathy in Argyle. Hey, Kathy.
Hey, James. I like your show, but I am totally in disagreement with you.
Go ahead.
Nobody wants to be around somebody smoke.
Yes, they do.
Smoke.
What about other smokers?
That I know.
What about people that go to a cigar bar where the specific intent is to hang around other people who are smoking?
Yeah,
you don't want to hang out with people who are smoking, but you're projecting.
How many are in there? How many are in there?
Enough to have a viable business. Oh, so we're going to oppress them just because they're a minority?
I'm talking about the consumers that go in there. How many are in there? There may be 10 or 12. That's not the majority of the people in America.
We don't oppress them just because they're minorities, Kathy.
I'm not. That's not oppressing them. That's saying,
yeah, it is.
Hey, I don't like you smoking around me.
Well, don't go where they smoke.
I think it's unhealthy. I think it's unhealthy for me. And if you really did your research,
I did.
You would see how many people have died from lung cancer from smoking. And the secondhand smoke, I don't really have any numbers on that, but it's common sense that you're getting that smoke in you if you're around somebody that's smoking, even though you don't smoke. And I am so thankful that they passed a law back in the day where you can't smoke in restaurants. You can't smoke anywhere anymore. I am so thankful that somebody out there has a brain. It's the smart thing to do, James. It's the smart thing to do.
Disagree.
It's not. Okay, well, you can disagree, but I'm disagreeing with you, and I'm telling you why. And I bet you there's a whole bunch out there, non-smokers like me, that do agree with that. I mean,
of course they do.
For once, the government has done something good for the benefit of everyone except smokers. But there's more of us than there are them. I guarantee you, there are more.
I agree. Of course there are.
Smokers.
That doesn't make them wrong. That doesn't make them wrong. You know, you could probably save a whole lot of lives if you outlawed sugar, too. That doesn't necessarily make anyone's lives better, and it is kind of an infringement on your liberties to be able to choose what you do and don't consume. So does that make it right, just because you know it would save lives? Even if your health assertions are correct, which I'm not sure they are, concerning secondhand smoke? You disagree with it because you agree with not smoking. There was no philosophical argument in there. You're just like, I think it's bad, so we should ban it. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. But if you want, my friend in Argyle, if you want some of the links to the studies I'm looking to, just send me an email. I'll pass them along to you. Go read this Oxford study. Here, the Oxford study, I got it right here. 2013. No clear link between passive smoking and lung cancer. It's the damnedest thing. They studied more than 76,000 women. So this isn't just me on the radio making stuff up to get ratings. This is just a weird situation we have in the public discourse where I think most people don't even know this information because all we've heard all our lives is secondhand smoking is bad and will kill you. And it's even worse than primary smoking or whatever they call that.
The James Show Podcast.